Hi YouTube, my name's Dan. I'll be talking to you guys about officer presence today. What even is officer presence? How do we apply it? What does it look like? We'll go over all of that in this video. But before we do, if you like this type of content, please leave a like and subscribe. If you don't like this content, that's fine too. Please dislike the video, but just remember to leave a comment and tell me what I can do to make this better. Lastly, before we get started, I want to make a distinction between security guards and security officers. In general, the security industry considers security guards to be unarmed guards and security officers to be armed officers held to a higher standard. This can sometimes be a little different depending on which state a security guard or officer is operating in, but it's important to make that distinction because impersonating a police officer is both illegal and immoral, and at no point in time do I, my company, or any of my employees claim to be or think that we are law enforcement. You may have heard the term officer presence in the past, but what does that actually mean? How do you quantify that? In simple terms, officer presence is simply professionalism, but professionalism has its own connotations as well. In most places where you look for actual definitions of the words officer presence, you'll get things from Wikipedia or certain dictionaries that describe the uniform and utility belt that officers or vehicles the officer arrives in. You may also find police presence definitions and meanings in certain dictionaries. However, that doesn't really necessarily apply to security companies and security guards or security officers. At its core, officer presence is a nonverbal way of communicating professionalism. Everything from the uniform to the officer's haircut to the odor an officer may or may not put off can be quantified as officer presence. A security guard who arrives on post and does not have his uniform in order, his boots are untied, his uniform doesn't fit him correctly, anything along those lines can hurt his officer presence, while guards and or officers who have squared away uniforms, good equipment, good training, and carry themselves with confidence will display professionalism without having to use their words. Officer presence can be important for a number of reasons. Firstly, it gives the client a sense of understanding and comfort to know that the personnel that they've hired are not fly-by-night, and they know that whatever they are paying for that service is worth it. Next is officer safety, which can be impacted by their officer presence. Most crimes are crimes of opportunity, and most criminals are predators seeking easy prey. In more of a military-type environment, you would refer to that as a hard target or a soft target. An officer displaying himself as a soft target or having poor officer presence also makes whatever site or client that he's protecting look like a soft target. Again, criminals typically are looking for easy prey and easy opportunities, a quick buck. Don't give them those opportunities because you don't feel like tying your boots or because you don't feel like doing your hair or getting a haircut. It is also possible to overdo it. Security guards and security officers do not necessarily need to look militarized or display themselves as a militarized organization. There are some legitimate private military contractors or private military security contractors who are technically security and do fit that militarized role. But there is a time and a place for every piece of equipment, and we'll cover that here in a few seconds. Because of our close proximity to the public, it is important for us to have a healthy balance between gear that is actually useful and appropriate for our environments and limiting the gear that is either not necessary or not appropriate. I'd like to take a moment to describe how Valkyrie Protection Agency uses uniform standards and policies to maintain our officer presence. Even if you don't work for Valkyrie, a lot of the things that we do can be scaled down to an individual level. One of the first things that we teach our officers is self-accountability. If you are aware of a discrepancy in your own uniform or your own equipment, that should be a priority to correct. The very next thing in our policies is giving clear outlines of what's allowed and what's unacceptable regarding uniforms and equipment. These uniforms and equipment should be shaped off of your environments, and what works for us in our environment may not work for you in your environment. Valkyrie Protection Agency primarily operates in the desert of Arizona. Because of that, we've had to tailor our uniforms with that in mind, as well as other environmental hazards such as rattlesnakes and scorpions. The uniforms for this environment are lightweight, breathable materials that help reduce sweating and odor buildup. Speaking of odor, our officers are expected to conduct hygiene if they are taking consecutive shifts. Hygiene, which takes typically about 15 to 20 minutes, consists of changing into a new uniform, changing socks, and applying some fresh deodorant, and in general, finding a way to be fresh for their new shift. Yes, that's right, we do carry spare uniforms. It's very easy to ruin a uniform while conducting duties. You could spill some coffee on it, you might get into a down and dirty fight and rip your uniform. You may get biohazards on them from someone vomiting or bleeding on you. There are a number of reasons why you may want to change out of your uniform other than officer presence. Although, a dirty uniform or a ruined uniform will affect your officer presence as well. A spare uniform allows us to continue to display professionalism to the client as well as the general public, even after a long day or after a really bad fight. The next topic to talk about is equipment. Everybody has their own preference on brand and style, but in general, you want to make sure that your equipment, again, suits your environment and your needs. Tourniquets are a good example. All of our guards carry them, but they can be damaged by the sun's UV rays, so they have to be carried in a specialized pouch. Those pouches are an example of something that we both need and fits our environment. Another good example is body armor. Arizona is literally the Wild West. Virtually everybody in Arizona has a gun or a knife or some other form of deadly instrument. And because of that, it's important for us to wear body armor on a regular basis. Body armor, however, is inherently heavy, uncomfortable, causes you to sweat. All of these things are factors to consider in Arizona. Because of those environmental factors, we typically use lightweight body armors rated for rifle rounds as well as handgun threats. And we've found that Safe Life Defense has a fantastic package for what we do. Just as a quick note, neither this video nor my company are sponsored or endorsed by Safe Life, we just like their products. The other factor about body armor to consider is how are you going to wear it? Some plate carriers are external and some are concealed. There are a number of ways to wear body armor. Valkyrie Protection Agency typically wears external plate carriers as it helps lower the load on the belt and prevent long-term injuries in the spine and lumbar. Another good example to talk about is tasers. Some tasers are made for law enforcement and some tasers are made for the civilian populace. Guards should not be carrying defensive tasers like the Taser Pulse or some of the stun guns you can buy at the mall. Things like that are not designed or intended to be used while on duty. Valkyrie specifically uses the Taser X2 and sometimes the Taser 7 depending on the officer and availability. But more important than the Taser itself is the training associated with it and every other tool that we carry with us. Good quality tools and good quality training deliver both good officer presence and confidence on post. These two things work hand in hand to non-verbally de-escalate 99% of problems on site. For a more detailed breakdown of the tools and training that we use, feel free to watch our YouTube channel as we will be posting videos about that soon. For now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the equipment section of this video by simply saying that anybody trying to be a professional in any industry should have access to professional tools and training on how to use those tools correctly. For those of you out there looking to get into security, just remember that a carpenter doesn't show up to work without his saw, and a mechanic doesn't show up to work without a good quality socket wrench. Just like those other industries, security has its own tools of trade. And for us, our baton, taser, firearm, whatever those tools are, they are the tools of our trade, and they should be handled and cared for and trained on to a professional standard. The last tool that I would really want to talk about is firearms, but we're going to cover that in a full-length video on its own. But for now, if you're looking to this video for advice, just find a good quality handgun that's in common use with your local law enforcement, and don't forget good quality ammunition in a solid retention holster. Okay, I get it. I rabbit holed for a little bit, and now you're asking me, Dan, how do we put all this stuff on and make it work, and have that officer presence on post. One of the first things to actually wearing all the equipment is making sure that everything's easily accessible and that you're not really bunching anything up. At Valkyrie, everybody carries at least 2 less lethal devices and their firearm. Some supervisors also carry handcuffs depending on where they're working and what they're doing, but for the most part, the equipment is pretty limited. Body cameras are worn centerline on the vest. Handgun magazines are on the opposite side of the belt from the handgun. Tasers are on the offhand. Batons are typically on the strong hand, and our flashlight is typically in its most convenient location for each individual officer. Officers at Valkyrie Protection Agency also carry IFAKs, centerline on the back of their belt, and sometimes more specialized equipment in a duty bag or a backpack inside their vehicle. Items like morale patches and other tools or accessories that are inappropriate or not conducive for work are not approved for use with Valkyrie and are not carried on duty. Keep an eye on our YouTube shorts because we will be posting individual videos for each item and how to efficiently place it on your equipment. I will also be making a part 2 of this video where we will go over washing your uniform, including your vest, and how to maintain items that aren't typically talked about. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. And if you didn't like the video, that's fine too. Just leave a dislike and let me know what I can do to make the videos better in the future. Also, if anybody has any advice on video editing or anything along those lines, feel free to leave those comments as well, as I'm learning along the way. As a parting note, remember that every day is a new opportunity to be better than we were yesterday. So use today as an opportunity to be better than you were yesterday, and use tomorrow as an opportunity to be better than you were today. Everybody, please stay safe and have a great night.